I am Penelope, author of epic fantasy and paranormal romance, and welcome to my imaginary friends, a look behind the scenes of an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello friends, today is Saturday, August 1st, 2020, and this is episode 79 of my imaginary friends. I'm Leslie. So this week's best thing was a writer Zoom, writer happy hour, I think we were calling it, via Zoom, of course, because of pandemic. That was really fun. So it was organized by Denny S. Bryce, who I'm 100% sure is an extrovert. She is an organizer extraordinaire. And Priscilla Oliveras, Vanessa Riley, Veronica Ferrand, Tracy Livesey, and Pintip Dunn. So that was a lot of fun. It is always good to have community. And, this year, even without the pandemic, we were not going to have an RWA conference that anyone was really going to. So I was already kind of upset about not getting to see people in real life, because one of the main reasons that I even go to the conference is to see the people that I talked to over the year on social media in real life. And so it is nice to be able to see some people sometimes via Zoom. And I hope that we'll be able to continue doing things like that until the next time we can actually get together in real life. In writing news, I have received the copy edits for the short story, the bonus epilogue of Cry of Metal and Bone that I'm giving away. So I still have to review them and accept them and make a couple of changes that have come from some feedback that I got. I got a fabulous beta read. Shout out to Kiana Jones for that. A lot of food for thought there. So there's just some tweaks I need to make in the next couple of days. No big deal. And of course, I'm working on the revision for book 4 of the Erskine Chronicles, Requiem of Silence, which is going well. So this week's news in Revisionland, is that I came up with a schedule. If you've been following along, I took my plot board, I had the outline, I organized all of the index cards in Scrivener. So basically I took everything from the outline and applied it to Scrivener. So I already had it in Scrivener. I write in Scrivener, which is the word processing program, I guess you could say, but it's like a word processing program on steroids. Great for writers if you are unaware. I couldn't write these books without Scrivener. I really couldn't. When I first tried to write a novel, I was using Word, and I'm sure there's many other reasons why that first novel why I didn't finish it, but I was having a lot of trouble organizing scenes. And once I got Scrivener and I could drag and drop them into place and move them around and annotate them and have metadata, it illuminated my process and made my life so much easier. So anyway, inside of this program, there are 3 views for your manuscript. You can view each scene as a note card. Then you can also view them in an outline format and then as text. So I went into the note card view and started rearranging them. And on the note card, you can write the little summary of what's going to happen in each scene. The vast majority of them were already there because I've written this book before, but I did have several new scenes that I had to incorporate, and I reordered a bunch of things, and then I made notes on the note cards about the changes that were necessary in the scenes that had to change, like that had to have big changes. Then I printed out a blank calendar for August and September. So this book is now due September 15th, and I'm going to need at least the last 2 weeks to write the chapter epigraphs, which I always do the very last stage, because I never know how many chapters there are going to be. I'm constantly tweaking the contents of the chapters, especially if there's multiple scenes or multiple points of view in each chapter. And the epigraphs are not easy to write in this series, so I don't want to write more than I need. And I also tailor them to a point, to the contents of the chapter. Like, you might not be able to tell, but I actually do try to theme the epigraphs with what's happening in the chapter, even as they are all from in-world books in this series. So I know which in-world book is going to be the source of the epigraphs, but I'm not even thinking about them until I get to the end. So I'm working backwards from that. So basically what I did was looked at each scene, and basically there's 3 types of scenes. There's brand new ones that I have to draft. There are scenes that need a heavy revision and scenes that just need a review. And the review is just because I am moving things around. So days of the week are changing, timelines are changing a little bit for certain things, and then motivations. I'm shifting some of the action in this revision based on the feedback. I am making one cohesive inciting incident for this book where it lacked one. Like each of the multiple storylines had their own inciting incidents and then they met up later on. But it was consistent feedback said in different ways that there wasn't a strong through line for the book. I realized that was because there wasn't a unified inciting incident that then set each of the POV characters on their journeys. So shifting things around allowed me to do that, but it has ripple effects. Everything has ripple effects. So I then went through each of the scenes, and on my calendar, I have a color-coded system based on whether the scene needs to be drafted, revised, or reviewed, and wrote down each of the scenes on a day. So one day I will do brand new drafts of 2 new scenes that aren't in the book right now. And that's all that is. For that day of writing, that's going to be enough. The next day I'm going to revise those scenes and maybe start a review of another scene. And then the third day I would review the scenes from before, and et cetera, et cetera. It goes on like that. So I kind of evaluate the amount of work that I think each scene will need and then schedule it. So brand new scenes are going to take at least 3 days, a day to draft, a day to revise, and a day to review. And scenes that don't need as much work, I might only touch them on one day and then move on to the next. And so since creating this calendar, things have already shifted a little bit. Like I skipped ahead to next Tuesday and took care of some quick scenes that didn't need that much work, which put me a little bit ahead, but I'm also a little bit behind because I didn't draft one of the scenes I was supposed to draft on Friday. But I'm going to do it tomorrow. And since I have my Tuesday is freed up, I feel okay about this. I always feel better having some kind of plan, even though I know it's going to shift and change because creativity, it's not on a schedule. But I have my August planned, and that takes me through something like scene 50 or 60 out of 80. And I just left it there because I didn't see the point of, doing all month and a half when I know it's going to change. I did use erasable colored pens though, which is why erasable pens are so wonderful. So I love that. I feel good about that. And yeah, I've just been going in. I look at what I have to do that day, and I don't stop until it's done, unless I have a really good reason to stop. But that helps me stay on track. That kind of fine-grained approach of the scheduling is something that I'm leaning more into. Like I've always been a scheduler, and I've been refining it as I take on more projects and just am looking to really hack my time management even more. It's kind of like the time boxing idea, which I have talked about on a previous episode. I kind of talk about it a lot probably, but this isn't time boxing in terms of your day where you figure out, kind of schedule every hour of your day what you should be doing so that you make sure you get it done. But this is scheduling every day of the month. And I've given myself one day off a week from this because often I don't write. I used to not write on Fridays because I usually recorded the podcast on Fridays, and it just felt like a good day to take off. But I have been writing on Fridays because there is a group of sci-fi and fantasy writers who meet on Zoom and write together on Fridays. And I've really been enjoying that and the accountability that provides. And so I do write on Fridays now. So now I'm taking Saturdays off, and we'll see how that goes. The words are coming, the ideas are coming, and really knowing exactly what I need to get done on each day is pressure off of me. So I need to go and do this again with my other deadline, which is the 3rd novella in the series. I sold the novellas to Audible, and those are due end of September. We're seeing if there's any wiggle room with that date. But if I can schedule it like this, then I will feel a lot better about having the overlapping schedules. It's just making sure that I don't burn out. Also, a release date update. Requiem of Silence is now scheduled for an August 2021 release. It had been a different date, an earlier date, but I actually asked for them to move it back because of this process. I've spoken before about I wasn't happy with the book. When I turned it in April to my editor, I knew that I wanted to do a revision. And because publishing works so far in advance, the book was scheduled to go into copy edits basically right now. And so I wouldn't have had time to do the revision. I heard someone say that a book is late once, it's wrong forever. So I decided to, talking with my agent, we were just like, I just told her how unhappy I was with that version that I had turned in. And yeah, so she was like, well, we can ask to push it back and we'll see what they say. And my editor was fine with that. She had to get buy-in from the powers that be, which for a while I wasn't sure, because I know when you ask to push a book back, you don't know when it's going to be. Like, there's a real possibility that it might have been 2022, which would have sucked. But late once, wrong forever. I was repeating that in my mind. So I'm really grateful that it's going to be August of 2021. It's a year out. Most books come out, series books come out once a year. It will suck for people who want the next book immediately. And I know that I'm one of those people too. I'm one of those readers, so I get it. But I want to give the best book possible. And I feel really good about these changes. And like, I'm going to be able to end the series strong. And that was my primary concern. It was really keeping me up at night and causing me a lot of stress. Not feeling like I was ending it the way I wanted to end it. I want to go out with a bang and not with a fizzle. And I'm going to do the very best I can to make that happen. And so hopefully, crossing fingers, that will be the book that I turn in. A bang. Other publishing things. Cry of Metal and Bone comes out on August 11th. So as I record this, it's 10 days away. It's book 3, so marketing and publicity isn't super insane. I have been scheduling posts, Instagram posts specifically, to go out because I like Instagram the best. And I could do Facebook and Twitter. I am doing some Twitter and some cross posting to Facebook, but I'm kind of ambivalent about social media making a difference at all. But I know that I would feel bad if I didn't make an effort. And I think social media probably makes more of a difference, especially now when people are home and they're not walking through bookstores like they used to. I don't know that my reach of my social media is going to make that big of a difference. But if I didn't want to do nothing. There's also events coming up. So August? Like, what month is it? August will be a bit busy. But I am looking forward to it because this is the first brand new, never published before book in the series. And even though the others were big revisions, big story changes, no one has ever seen any version of this book. So that's exciting. I was talking about this during the writer cocktail hour. What did I say? Happy hour. I don't know what it was called. With those writers that I was talking to the other day. And several of us have August releases. And our energy levels are just like, yeah. It seemed to be a common thread. I gear up towards release day, but I don't know. I'm excited, but I'm also pre-exhausted because I look at the schedule of things that I have to do and the events that are coming up, and I am looking forward to them. But the idea of actually doing them just makes me want to go take a nap. In that vein, sort of social media, Angelina Lopez was one of a group of writers who did a presentation for Maryland romance writers on debuting during a pandemic, debuting in 2020. And Angelina Lopez kills it on social media. She is a professional social media person, as her job. And she just does a great job. If you want to see examples of somebody doing fantastic, I think she kills it. I think that Alexis Daria is really killing it. There's people who I go to and I look at their feeds and I see what they're doing. And I just kind of try to copy as much as I can what they're doing. And those are great examples. But Angelina referenced something that she learned from author Ronnie Lauren. And all three of us share an agent, Sarah Megabo. And Ronnie Lauren is a romance author who's fantastic. She teaches classes, and I'll link to her academy, like writing classes. Now they're going on right now, but I think they're going to be coming back soon. Ronnie Lauren was talking in one of these classes that she teaches about how social media was actually designed to create anxiety. Like they went to psychologists and psychiatrists, some kind of psychological professionals, to study how to make a product that will create anxiety in the user and how we are content providers for them. Like they need us to put content on their platform and they need us to check it and feel bad about not checking it and become addicted to it. And we shouldn't allow that. Like we shouldn't allow them to do that to us. You know, we can fight back against that. And that's something really important to remember because social media is draining. It's tiring. Some people love it. I'm not one of those people. And I'm always like this close to just canceling all my accounts and to not picking up my phone unless it rings. You know, I do feel some pressure to be on there like a little bit at least because part of my job is to promote my books. And there's other schools of thought. Like I listen to the Career Author podcast. And those guys, they're indie authors and they got off social media and they make full-time incomes off of their books and other services with no social media. So it's absolutely possible to sell your books without doing it. And that appeals to me. But I like catching up with people and like at least observing what they're doing, even if I don't talk to them or chat with them or anything. I like that aspect of it, that voyeurism. What was my point? My point was, if you go into it knowing that this is a thing that was created and honed and designed, and I'm sure millions of dollars have been spent in the design to make you have a certain reaction, then the knowledge of that should be helpful to you in terms of preventing you from having it or realizing when you're falling into what they want you to do, which is check it all the time and have anxiety about not checking it. And don't allow it to rule your life. Like, don't allow that to take over. Like, I don't find myself necessarily addicted to it. I time myself when I'm on social media most of the time. And I'm getting to the point where I just go in and check my notifications, see if anybody is talking to me, if anybody's commented that I need to reply to, and then leaving, not even checking the feed. This is for Twitter and Facebook. Instagram, I don't mind like scrolling through pictures, but I do find myself on there for too long. I have it set to, it'll tell you when you've been on for more than 15 minutes. And it'll be like midnight. It'll be like 12:16. And it'll be like, you've been on for more than 15 minutes today. And I'm like, it's 12:16. I used up my whole allotment for the day after midnight. But I'm very proud that on the iPhone, it tells you your screen time and if you're up or down from week to week. And like this week I was down like 20%. So I was like, yes, that is my goal, to just keep going down and not be on so much. Of course, prepping for a launch is not the time that I'm going to take a social media fast or anything, but monitoring it. And I like the idea of just checking notifications and not really looking at the feed. And, I'm not perfect about that because sometimes I will just be like, well, what are people saying? What are they talking about? What's happening? And then I'll tear myself away. If you're on the video, you might notice that I have a little bit of an injury. I'm wearing my splint again, one of my many wrist splints. This is I forget what to call it. It's like a thumb splint thing. My physical therapist says that I might possibly have a stress fracture in my hand. She did a thing with a tuning fork, and so I'm trying to decide if I'm actually going to go to the doctor or not. My husband, the doctor, is very ambivalent about medical care in these situations. Because people are like, oh, what does your husband say? And they know he's a doctor. And he didn't say very much. He was just like, if you want to. Like, in terms of, should I go to the doctor or not? I mean, he has literally broken his whole hand and not sought any sort of medical treatment. So, of course, I'm facing a month and a half of a lot of writing. I can type in this splint, which separates my thumb from the rest of my hand, but it's not pretty. It makes me realize I'm right-handed, and I exclusively use the space bar with my right thumb, which in this splint I cannot do. So I've been trying to train my left hand to use the space bar, which means I'm typing a lot slower. Like I can type the words at the same speed because my 8 fingers are completely free. And every time I have to hit the space bar, it's like, stop. It's like a brain freeze and like, wait, which, because my thumb tries to hit it and I can't quite make it. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I'm training my left hand. A few years ago, I tried to switch to Dvorak instead of QWERTY. So the standard keyboard is the QWERTY keyboard, but the more efficient keyboard is Dvorak. And so you can actually, in all computer systems, change your keyboard to Dvorak. And then there's probably stickers, I think, that you can cover your keys or you can just memorize them. And I remember once I think I had learned a long time ago when I was, studied computer science, that Dvorak was more efficient in terms of the way we type. QWERTY is actually the least efficient. It was designed to slow down typists because of early typewriters getting jammed or something. Have I talked about this before? Anyway, a couple of weeks I was learning Dvorak, and then I was like, I can't do this. I have been typing since I was like 11 years old. I'm pretty fast as a typist on QWERTY. But I wonder, sometimes Dvorak still calls to me. I think you would categorize this under nerd problems. I also hurt my tricep, but it's not too bad. I've been heating it. So no climbing for a while. I can only assume that if I do have a stress fracture, it is from climbing. I was hanging upside down for a while on this boulder problem, and some things didn't feel great afterwards. So I still love climbing. I don't care what anyone says. I know y'all are out there being like, I told that girl about that rock climbing. Yes, I understand. I can't help it. I love it. What are you going to do? In other news, actually today, my husband started watching Indian matchmaking on Netflix, and I was watching over his shoulder. And it's a really interesting show, and I think I like it. And I think it's great for romance authors especially, because you're following a matchmaker and her clients who are trying to find love. And she is the matchmaker is such a fountain of knowledge about other humans and just the way she can judge people's characters and see the aspects of their character that will conflict or blend with other people. And it's really fascinating. I've only watched like an episode and a half maybe, but I think it's a great study of people and characters and then what it takes to find love and what brings people together in a really cool way. So romance authors, romance fans, readers, check it out. Indian matchmaking on Netflix. Goals for this week. Follow my schedule. Do my plan and my schedule for the novella and meld the two together. I probably need a bigger calendar because I've got this 2 months on one page and I'm not going to be able to fit all that information on here. But follow the schedule, get this book revised, work on the other thing that I need to work on, and not go crazy. I did cut out wheat and sugar and dairy from my diet in order to sort of hack my energy levels, and it's working. I feel a lot of energy. I'm not getting tired at like the 3 o'clock point is when I usually would start to crash and feel like I needed a nap and have to push through. That's not happening. So that's actually really helpful to me as I go through this process. So yeah, that is it for me for this week. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I hope that I'll get to do some more reading. I've got a bunch of books on my Kindle that I haven't been able to touch yet. Kit Roca comes to mind. The Mercenary Librarian's sitting there just waiting for me. There's a bunch of other books. I have some library books that I downloaded that I only have a couple of weeks to read, and I haven't been doing a ton of reading lately, which is, I don't want that to bite me, because when I don't read, it's not good. So hopefully I'll add that to my goals to just schedule in some reading time at the end of the day like I usually do. But yeah, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. For episode show notes and to sign up for the Footnotes newsletter and get the show notes in your inbox, go to myimaginaryfriendshow.com. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and check out the video episodes on YouTube. My Imaginary Friends is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. For more fantastic podcasts, go to frolic.media/podcasts.